Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hello, everybody. This is Stephanie Hansen, and we are here for episode number 7, actually, of Makers of Minnesota, the podcast. We are talking to local Minnesota makers, people that make products. If you like these podcasts and you're enjoying listening to them, please consider giving us a rating on either Stitcher or iTunes. That will help the podcast be available to more people and improve the amount that it gets seen. For this week's episode, I am talking to a woman who I've known for, probably about 5 years. Her name is Melissa Farris. Hi, Melissa.
Hi there.
Melissa has a company called Veriditas Botanicals, and it is an essential oil company. And when I first met you, Melissa, I remember thinking, I just thought you were so young. Like, how is this lady running this company? You were very full of energy and very fresh. And at that time, I didn't know anything about essential oils, but being exposed to printing your pieces, because I owned a printing company and Melissa would print things with me, I would read the materials and I would look at them and I would think, wow, these are all very interesting. How did you end up getting into the business of essential oils? And from Minnesota, no less.
Totally by mistake and a really long time ago. When I was about 17, 18 years old, I found myself in London, England, and studying at the College of Phytotherapy to be an herbalist.
Okay. So you always had like a interest in natural...
In herbalism.
Yeah.
And pharmacology. And then I went to Bastyr University and University of Washington, and then I transferred to the California School of Herbal Studies, which was an amazing school. And from there, I started a bulk tincture company, so dealing with herbalism. And then at that time, I met a French medical aromatherapist by the name of Kurt Schwabelt, and I started studying with him. That was when I first started my first company called Simplers Botanical Company. I bought the name Simplers and was doing Veriditas, the bulk tincture line. And then I went to France, became...
Can I interrupt you for just 1 second? An herbal tincture. That was your entry point into essential oils. What is that?
That wasn't my entry point into herbalism and the sale and the marketplace, and deciding that I didn't want to be a doc anymore and that I wanted to be a business person. Well, I didn't really want to be, but I was a squatter in London, and I was actually, the story is kind of cool. I was squatting, you know what this is, in London, and I was a barmaid, and the way that we distributed the alcohol, the medicine, right, was through these upside down bottles, and you put an optic up, and you push up on it, and exactly one fluid ounce
would pour out. Yep.
So I started importing those when I was like 21 or 22, and I started a bulk tincture company, and all of a sudden all the Whole Foods picked them up, and I was doing about $107,000 a month. And that was, for me, who had never done business before, a really big deal.
So how were you making them?
I was making the tinctures. Yeah. So I had
the love of the phone. You're not the first person to have that happen.
I had the background on pharmacology and medicine making from the California School of Herbal Studies with James Green, and he had taught me how to, well, actually, I had learned there how to make tinctures. So you can either make folk tinctures or scientific tinctures. And the scientific method is you take, let's say, a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 or a 1-to-4, and depending on the plant and how much hydroalcoholic the water and the alcohol proportions, how much of it is alcohol soluble and how much of it is water soluble. So there's a science behind tinctures, and tinctures are water and alcohol extracts of plants. So that's how I started. That's how I started my introduction into herbalism.
So for a lay person that's
echinacea
listening,
tincture,
like how would they use it, or what would they be familiar with?
So if you go to any health food stores or even Lens and Byerly's, you can see Echinacea St. John's, wort, milk thistle, all of those things that have little dropper tops. Those are called tinctures.
Okay. So that was your entry point into the manufacturing.
Yes, and being kind of the little hippie herbalist, punk rock herbalist that I was, I was like, yeah, we should, everyone should be able to get tinctures for half price, and that's why I did the bulk, the spindles with the from the bars, and I started importing them from London and then selling them in Whole Foods so that people could essentially service their bulk
Their own,
tinctures,
yeah.
and then they could do, a 4-ounce bottle, an ounce of Vitex, 2 ounces of milk thistle, and an ounce of Dong Quai for like a feminine, a reproductive tonic, let's say.
Were you giving the recipes for those tonics when they were
absolutely.
in Whole Foods? Because how did the layperson wouldn't know, gee, this really is going to cure menstrual cramps or help you?
There was a booklet on all of the products that I had written.
Did you have to do demonstrations? How did you get Whole Foods interested?
No, at that time, tinctures were such a big deal. Now essential oils are the rage, and then tinctures were the rage, and herbs, and people just, being in Northern California is kind of like it's so old hat there.
Sure.
It's like everybody knows what milk thistle's for, or they put it in their gmassimo. It's used. They use a lot of herbs in their cooking, so they were very, very familiar, and we kind of took off.
What is milk thistle for? I don't even know.
It's liver. It's a liver tonic.
Detoxification thing.
Exactly,
Okay,
and it's a passive liver tonic. So, and I really like the Eclectic brand. Little plug there.
Okay.
But yeah, so milk. So I just started. I had 108 tinctures, and then I bought the name Simplers from James Green, and I started doing organic essential oils out of the California School of Herbal Studies. And I changed the name from Veritas to Simplers because I wanted it to be connected to the school, and the school is where these tinctures were made.
Okay.
And David Hoffman and James Green and Amanda McQuaid and Rosemary Gladstar and all of these old school herbalists started the school in 1973. And it's so, all of these companies like Traditional Medicinals and Herb Farm and Gaia and, all of these companies came out of that area.
Oh, okay.
And so this is kind of the Renaissance herbal area that I was in love with, and also started my first company, Simplers. So I think I was in 550 stores when I sold Simplers in 2002. And
Do you mind if I ask what you sold it for?
Money-wise?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I probably can't talk about that under contract, but yeah.
Okay, so was it enough? Yeah. Was it enough to retire had you have wanted to at the time?
Oh my gosh, no. I didn't know anything about business at that time. I was just a kid. And
so when you got the offer to sell, how did you know if it was even a good offer?
Well, actually, the attorneys had told me that it wasn't a good offer. They're people were begging me not to sell, and I was so burned out because I'd never had a sales rep. I went and got all of these accounts all over the nation myself, and I was at that time I was doing tinctures and organic essential oils, and I was kind of rebranding essential oils into you don't use lavender to cure your depression or to cure your divorce or to stop your children from screaming. Lavender is used in French medical aromatherapy for cuts, scrapes, nicks, bites, burns. It's a topical vulnerary. It helps to heal the skin. And, this is the way that you use lavender mostly. It's also a cardiac tonic. It's a parasympathomimetic, which means that it helps bring you from sympathetic, the fight or flight, down to, et cetera. And there's a lot of ways, blue chamomile is used as an anti-inflammatory. Roman chamomile is used as an anti-spasmodic. So I started making formulas. I think we had 10 formulas at Simplers. And then, anyway, I sold this company. And
hang on one second. So your mom and dad,
oh yeah,
you're working. You get this offer from an attorney. Your mom and dad, are they like, hey, Melissa, this isn't a good plan, or were you just so sold on that you wanted to do something else?
No, I was just really burnt out. And by the way, my father was an entrepreneur himself. And on day one, I remember my first account was Rosemary's Garden, and I went to when I was 21 or 22 years old. And I went to sell them the bulk tinctures, and I thought that when you delivered the product, they just gave you cash or a check, and I didn't know what net 30 was or an invoice. So I'd had no business experience. So my dad, really, Mike Farris, he just helped me he mentored me through business completely. And I was very, very successful with my first company, Simplers.
I know your dad's real proud of you. I've run into him once or twice.
Yeah, he's on the golf course telling people to do our pain relief, and tells people what helichrysum is. And
that's funny.
Go to Corsica. This is what helichrysum is used for. And he starts talking about the constituents. He's so hilarious. And he even uses the anti-aging oil in his face when he's driving. He's just hilarious. But anyway.
So you sell that company.
So I sold the company, and I was, by the way, doing organic essential oils and redefining the way that we use essential oils in this country by offering organic and pharmaceutical grade essential oils. Then,
okay, so you're doing that,
right.
but you had this burnout period.
I had the
Did
burnout
you take
period.
time off as an entrepreneur? I think
Yeah.
that's a very common thing to happen.
Yeah.
And most entrepreneurs have multiple business ideas. So did you take time off? Did you decide, like, gee, I'm going to do this different this time?
So I thought I was done forever with herbs and essential oils. I had no idea what I was going to do. Like, I started, I was looking into real estate and, all sorts of, but I bought a townhouse and fixed it up. And
so how long?
I flew for 1 year. I took off and then I flew to France, and I became a part of this cooperative called Essai Plants Aromatiques de Diwa. And they're in Provence, France. They're in the south of France, and they're the largest. They sell 1/3 of the organic essential oils in the world. And
the reason you became part of that co-op was because you were still dabbling in essential oils, and you were thinking you wanted to grow that. I'm assuming after having a year off,
after
making
having a year
a condo,
I was
a townhome.
Yeah, after having a year off and just doing yoga and working on my house. Yes, what happened was more and more I was working with Azusa Nakamura, this woman in Japan that was doing like $250 million in sales in essential oils. I mean, she was amazing, and she was also such a great mentor. And Horst also was like, Melissa, you can't give away you can't stop your passion.
So tell me about that. When did you run into him along your journey?
Yeah, we were just really good friends.
How'd you meet him?
Oh, I think at a conference, at Kurt Schwabelt's conference. Kurt Schwabelt was also a really big mentor and a good friend of mine, and he lives in San Rafael, and he's written probably 30 books, and he's just been on he's talking about the biology of essential oils and plants and plant biology, and kind of that's another story, but we should go into that at some point.
Melissa, why do you think all of these people who were probably older than you, much more experienced on the business side, why do you think they mentored you? Like, what was it about you that appealed to them? Or, besides the fact that you're just ballsy as heck. I mean, you just I
think they recognized my level of getting it, quote unquote, and being able to transfer information that is really heady and scientific to a practical use or knowledge base.
Sure.
And I'm also really great at making foundations. Formulations. I'm really great at sales because I can take those pieces of scientific mumbo jumbo, like the chemistry. Like, I can talk about an aldehyde and make it an aldehyde or an ester or a phenol or a phenylpropyl ether, and make it palatable for someone who is just a person who doesn't care what that means.
Right. Who's got menstrual cramps and is looking for some relief.
Where I made this chemistry chart that you can pick up at any store that sells Veritas, and people look at it and they're like, what in the heck is this? And it shows the chemistry, the chemical groups, and the groups that you can use neat or undiluted on the skin. And then it shows essential oils that you can take internally by using them in food and flavoring or by using them in medicinal honeys. So I kind of passed along my French medical aromatherapy knowledge and know-how. And I think that people were and I'm also really good at sales. And I think it's just because
I can tell.
I think it's just because I have a really easygoing attitude. And it's like, hey guys, we're just selling essential oils in grocery stores. Like, everybody needs to settle down. Like, people used to get so.
It's not enough to just purchase an essential oil. I mean, you have to know what to do with it. Otherwise, it just ends up kind of being in the back of your counter.
Right. Like, they just buy it thinking that it's just to smell something. Like, you smell lavender and, like I said, your divorce goes away. But really...
Which, not the divorce, but stress at work. I used to huff peppermint.
Huff it?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's different.
I used to, rub it in my hands.
The mental clarity is different, though, because the peppermint and the mental clarity all have essential oils that are bronchodilators and vasodilators. So they do, when you smell them, help to bring blood to the brain and bring blood to the area. It's called rubefacin. It brings blood to the tissue, the
but
superficial
wasn't it
tissues.
You that told me? I think this was so funny. Sometimes I'd read that it was that using peppermint oil could be like an appetite suppressant. Mm-hmm. So I would use it till I got to lunch or if I was hungry. And then I think you told me once, actually it stimulates the appetite.
I think that it's different for everyone, and I'll tell you why. Essential oils, the idea, there's two sections or sects of essential oils. There's the French medical aromatherapy, and there's the English aromatherapy.
Okay.
And English aromatherapy is all about you smell something and it affects your limbic system, which is your emotional center.
Mm-hmm.
And French medical aromatherapy is you use it internally, externally. You smell it. You use it in inhalations. You use it
On your skin.
on your skin. You use it in a suppository. I
Sure.
mean, like you use it in capsules. You use it all over the place. And then English aromatherapy is more like you dilute it highly and you use it mostly in massage or for smelling. So my take on this, and I've never heard anyone else say this, but this is just my thing with that, is that if you smell an essential oil, the limbic system is your emotional center. So it's kind of like art or music. When I look at a piece of art, it makes me feel this way, or it could be nostalgic. Or I listen to the Beastie Boys and it brings me back to 7th grade when
Sure.
I was, hanging out at the pool. Lavender to somebody, if their grandma used to lock them in a closet with a lavender sachet hanging in there, their connotation is not calming and soothing.
No.
So I think that when you're going for an essential oil for an emotional reason, I think that it's a very personal and something that people should go and smell and choose what they're attracted to. But when it comes to French medical aromatherapy, it's like no matter whether or not you like lavender angustifolia or not, it's going to cure your burn, scrape, neck bite. You put it on your skin, you have no choice. It's going to do what it does.
So
Because of the linalool acetate and the low cineol and the geraniol and the chemical constituents that make up this plant.
So if I go into Lund's and I see your display there,
Yep.
I'm going at it from a smell point of view.
Hopefully you'll see the tons of literature that we have, one on all the wellness formulas. I think the wellness formulas, remember I used to tell you that this mental clarity or the pain relief was the gateway drug? So
Yes.
you do the mental clarity, you can see that it actually has an immediate effect, and then you put it on your neck and shoulders, and then it helps release tension, and you're thinking a little bit more clearly, and you wake up. And then, you pick up this wellness formulas card and you see that there's an acne treatment.
And just to let you know, this wellness formulas card that she's holding, it's a 5.5 by 11 card. And
that prints it. That prints prints.
What is different about the way you approach this is, so now you're taking what we in America see as sort of something that's going to make us feel good because it smells good.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're taking it and you're saying, hey, there are properties here that can do different things that aren't just smell based.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like is that like acupuncture?
That's French medical aromatherapy.
Okay. And when you say French medical aromatherapy, are you qualified? Are you not qualified? That's not the word I'm looking for. Is there a certification or?
So, unfortunately not in the United States, which is part of the problem.
Okay. Is there in other countries?
Oh, absolutely.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebesta here. Check out my brand new podcast, 2 Week Notice, where we discuss the process of quitting your job and living a more fulfilling life. I want you living the dream. Find 2 Week Notice on my website, jaredsebesta.com, or subscribe on iTunes today.
If you go into France and you buy an essential oil at a pharmacy, like let's say that you go in and you say, I have ballonnement, like I have constipation. And
okay.
Then they'll look up, so they want something to increase peristalsis,
yep.
to,
move
things start squirting like your pepsin and gastrin and whatever. So the guy looks up in his PDR and he's like, okay, bay, 1 drop of bay, 2 drops of rosemary verbenone, and 3 drops of lavender on this little. It used to be a sugar cube, but now that sugar's the devil everywhere, we're doing apple pectin. And then you take this little pill and you put the essential oils on it and you take it internally, or they have, internal capsules, and then some things with certain constituents are, like things with
so the
methylcarabicol
of the essential French medical grade essential oils, they're prescribing it just like you would a drug, but it's not a drug, it's an oil.
Well, it's not a prescription, it's an over-the-counter, but they just take it more seriously
and
there.
they make it there.
And
neat.
No, they don't make it.
They formulate that, not the formulation. They not mix it. What would it be if you're putting it?
It would be behind the counter.
Or compose it.
It would kind of be like if you go and get, some things are behind the counter here. What are they called? What are they called here? When you like, if you go get Plan B, you have to go
Yeah,
to
or
the counter.
Sudafed even. Yeah.
Or Sudafed, exactly. And so, they are available in natural health food stores very minimally in Europe, but I actually partnered with a company called Pranerome, which is the largest essential oil company in Europe. And I think they are in over 2,000 pharmacies just in France.
Cool.
So, I mean, it's very much about, and then they have a book that tells people, it helps to guide them, like mostly on, sinusitis and like mostly problems that occur on a daily basis. It's not a soothing spa experience.
Yeah.
It's more like
it's more medical.
It's for daily ailments, I guess. And it's so hard to say these things. I can't really talk as the owner of a company. I'm talking as Melissa Farris, the herbalist, or the herbal enthusiast,
Sure.
because then I am, talking as a person rather than the owner of a company. Which I am just working on a book right now. It's almost finished, and that will be put out by Melissa Farris and not as my company.
Okay, so if I'm going to go into, let's say, Lund's, because I know they carry your products, and I see the essential oils that you have, and I'm going to look around the display for these cards, and when I see these cards, I'm going to get remedies for things like an anti-aging topical ointment. Mental clarity is something that my friends at work used to joke because I'd huff it all the time. When I was having chemo, I was having a hard time remembering things, so I would use it then. And pain relief is, I think,
it's one of our top sellers.
It's something you can keep in your purse. It's like a roll-on. And I was having a lot of lymph issues and pain, actually, from the double mastectomy that I had in my sort of armpit area because I had implants put underneath my pectoral muscle. And you were like, here, use this. And it brought heat to the area and it made me feel a lot better. And I would carry it around with me and use it all the time.
Yeah.
And then you introduced me to, you have an underarm oil.
The deodorant.
That is actually, there's a women's and a men's. I use the men's.
I use the men's too.
I like the way that it smells, but I was concerned about using aluminum underarm deodorant. And you learn how to use these things and you get result. And do people, why would people not use essential oils for some of these reasons? Is it just because they don't know how?
I think that allopathic medicine or regular pharmaceutical medicine totally has its place. I mean, I take antibiotics.
Of course.
I take, as you know, we both had a heart issue. I had a disease where a virus attacked my heart and made my heart atrophy. So I took a bunch of drugs for that.
Yep.
I also took herbs like hawthornberry and motherwort, and I didn't really take essential oils for it other than lavender because it's a cardiac tonic. But I think that allopathic medicine in combination with herbs and essential oils is a really great way to handle life. Food being first, and exercise and rest. I think stress is the number one thing. But yes, I think that the reason people don't use essential oils is because they don't know. I mean, I use the gumdrops on my gums every single day to stop gum recession. I have used the eczema treatment. I'm just going to tell you what I've used because I don't want to go into testimonials. But
Sure.
The Good Samaritan I use constantly. It's like the Young Living Thieves oil.
What does that do?
OMG. So there are two. Let me just finish let's go back a little bit. So I went and worked for this co-op called Essay Plantes Hermétiques de Diwa, and I was working with them, and they work with Dr. Hauschka and Cosbionat. They work with Dr. Valnay, which is the largest aromatherapy company, second to Pranerome. And Michel Minouvrier, my boss, who started this co-op, and they're in 27 countries, he's just he's the man. He is just the man. He believes in organic. And when you think that about the fact that it takes over 2,000 pounds to produce 1 liter of lavender essential oil, or that it takes 11.5 million whole roses to produce 1 liter of rose oil, and my cost of that is $18,000.
Right.
Buy it from the distiller.
Yep.
When you think about all that landmass, you have so much more of an appreciation for an essential oil. So one essential oil display in a health food store represents more landmass than 18 stores, all of the cereals and everything, because it takes so much of that material.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it? So if you are a proponent, if you do support organic, and never buy an essential oil that's not organic, because we test for pesticides and herbicides, and you don't want to be putting concentrated pesticides and herbicides on the body, number one. And number two, essential oils are made by the plant because it's the plant's immune system. So geraniol, eucalyptol, cineol, all of these things, all of these constituents that are created for each plant are pushed out of the plant to, number one, bring in pollinators.
Yep.
And number two, keep pests and bacteria away. So they're antimicrobial by nature.
Sure.
So that is why we distill them and we use their immune system. We are using the plant's immune system. And if you look on my website, there's a whole page on that.
There's you mentioned Horst earlier.
Yeah.
His company, Intelligent Nutrients, has it's called plant serum, and I put it all over my face every day. It's an oil.
Is it a stem cell thing?
It's cells from plants.
Yeah, stem cells.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that.
He and I used to talk about plant biology all the time. I mean, he was super, super like me, big into organics. I mean, you would never go to his house and there would never be something not organic served or talked about.
Right.
Even. But I mean, it's the same thing with Veritas. We've never carried anything that's not organic. And I mean, organics is the way to the future for all of the ecosystems and our whole population. And not only that, but why are we only talking about essential oils right now and not food? I mean, a carrot growing up in the world presents beta carotene as its main antiviral, or its vitamin A. We use retin A. We take retin A and make it to our skin to be antimicrobial for acne and wrinkles and regeneration of skin cells like that. And so why would we want to spray a carrot with pesticides and herbicides when it's making all of its biofunctions, all of its chemical activity to ward off those pests and bacteria and to heal itself, which is heal its own skin, let's say. So we're making a weaker plant that tastes worse, and for the essential oil smells worse. Number one, use organic. So that's the crux of this why organic thing.
What do you say when?
And the cost is
I was going to say, when we talk about it with food, we always get organics are so much more expensive.
Yeah, well, what it's like people go out and spend $50 on beer at night, or they, spend $80 at Target on a bunch of crap they don't need. Why are we not concerned with what goes into our bodies and how good we feel?
So your answer to that would be to spend the money on the things that are going to provide your longevity of your health.
And make you feel good now. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
instead of buying medicines, creams, and doctor's visits later on down the road.
Or now. I mean, when me, my friends, or my McDonald's eating friends, and I'm not saying don't go to McDonald's or don't. I mean, God, I'll have a McDonald's ice cream cone. I don't care. Like, I'm not saying be a crazy Nazi about these things. I'm just saying, basically, if you have a clean diet and you support organics and you support your co-ops and independent food stores, and know where you're getting your food, you'll feel a lot better immediately. And even my friends that do eat like this and then they go and eat a bunch of, crap, they feel like crap.
That's thus the advent of the Whole30. A lot of people are doing, it's not a diet, it's more of a lifestyle about clearing out all the crap out of your diet. And you basically are just going to eat cleanly for 30 days and see the impact that has on your body. And the benefit is a lot of people lose weight. They'll lose 8 to 10 pounds because, of course, you're not eating the crap or the alcohol.
Yeah.
But then they end up feeling pretty good. So some people really have changed their lives by that.
Yeah. And I mean, still have a few cigarettes now and then. Why, or have a glass of champagne now and then, or whatever.
Yeah,
why do we have to be
vices.
so all or nothing in this country? Like in France, there's so much more. It's about the pleasure.
The joie de vivre.
Totally. Exactement.
When we talk about essential oils in food, one of the things you and
the food and fragrance industry.
Well, and I ended up with I didn't think about using essential oils like, hey, you can put this in salad dressing, or hey, you can make a really great martini with this orange oil. How did you learn about that as it pertained to food?
Okay, so let's back up to so long ago. Let's back up to Coca-Cola when it was first made, the original Coca-Cola recipe, which I have on the PowerPoint right now that I should bring up. It was 40 pounds of sugar and a tincture of cocaine, and
Okay.
like, it was called the ideal brain tonic, but there were 7 or 8 essential oils that made that signature taste and flavor: cardamom, cinnamon, nutmeg, rose, lavender, black pepper, and then a few other that I can't remember, but and it's at 0.27%. So it's less than less than a quarter of a percent. An eighth of a percent of essential oils, but it's what makes that Coke taste. It's that weird taste, that like nutmeg and coriander and cinnamon leaf in your head, and the lemon and lime. Those are all the essential oils with the vanilla too. So 99% of the essential oils in the world are made for the food and fragrance industry to give things their signature taste and flavor, and also to take things like Tide or any kind of detergent and neutralize it with lavandine, which is not lavender. A lot of people sell lavandine as lavender in this country, which is a hybrid between spike lavender and lavandula angustifolia. But the idea is that you can get lavandine for $40 a gallon, which is 4 liters, rather than $300 per liter,
Right.
So of an organic lavender. So what I'm trying to say is almost all of the essential oils in the world are made for the food and fragrance industry. So a lot of the things were sold in aromatherapy in America and across the world from the food and fragrance industry. So these crappy oils were being made, which is why French medical aromatherapy was never talked about, because it was more about just smelling the smell.
Right.
Because you can't put these things on your skin directly. I mean, there are a lot of synthetics added to them, or they are, really crappy distillations or whatever. Let's not even get into it. They're not artisanal, beautiful. It's a lot like the wine industry, or it's like, are you buying Mad Dog or getting like a Bordeaux that's like,
that's a good comparison,
or like a Chateau Neuf de Pop that's like, super like, wow. So I think that people really need to know that organic is first. When they develop their noses, they can smell a good lavender, or a good blue chamomile, or a good vetiver.
You have like 4 versions of lavender, don't you?
Right. Yeah. 4 different species. And then one, exactly.
Yeah, when you go to the store.
Yeah,
now,
and then there's a card on what the difference is on all the lavenders and what the chemical composition is and how you can use all 4 of them differently. But anyway, so when you're in Europe, I mean, like I'll order a champagne with 1 drop of rose in it. So that's a very popular drink. And then you get a little extra high and you smell like roses the next day because you're sweating it out. You sweat out essential oils. It's one way that you get rid of them. The pharmacokinetics, is the way that a drug or a food enters and leaves the body. So, like a lot of essential oils come out with sweat, like garlic.
Sure.
The volatile oil is what that smell is. The volatile oil is the essential oil. So, and then like they'll use essential oils in their cooking all the time. And then hydrosols are also used, like we sell to the Bachelor Farmer and the Marvel Bar, and they use our hydrosols in their drinks and they make them extremely tasty and kind of like, wow, what is that? What is that?
And
rose
that's a
string?
spray, right?
Yeah, the hydrosol is the water part of the distillation, and then the essential oil is the oil part of the distillation. So when you distill 2,000 pounds of lavender, you get 4 liters of lavender essential oil and 50 gallons of the hydrosol.
Okay.
So the hydrosol goes off very easily, so you need to be able to learn how to microfilter and UV filter it so that you can get it from there to here, and then the shipping is so expensive. So hydrosols are rare. They're hard to find, and we're actually doing a class with Charlie Wagner, owner of Jute, about how to make your own hydrosols coming up.
I forgot that you know her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She's amazing.
Okay, so just a weird question now about, you obviously know what you're doing in the essential oil arena. Now you're like this hippie kid, and you've had one company.
Still totally a hippie kid.
Okay,
yeah.
And you're building this other company.
Which actually, I merged with Pranarome. So, I mean, this is Pranarome's company mostly now.
Okay, but before that happened, you said like, I was just going and I was burned out, but I was selling to all these people. Now you start to hire people. How did you hire people that had any experience in essential oils, or
Not
did they
at
just
all.
have to keep up with you? How
No.
did you grow as a company?
Right. That's such a good question. So I didn't want this to be Veritas. I didn't want it to be a big company like Simplers was. I just wanted it to be, it was in my garage I live in Bloomington, and it was like, Tara, my mom and dad's friend, and my girlfriend Becky, would come over to my house and we would pour essential oils, and then I would get like little accounts and we would do like 20 essential oils, and then all of a sudden, it just in 6 years, it was like doing 5 million a year, and
Right.
it
And
was
just growing and growing like crazy.
Yeah, and it's
And were you couldn't have still been doing it out of your garage?
no. That only lasted for like 6 months. But I think once I knew so many people in the nation from Simplers, and because I taught at Bastyr University, and I had so many connections in the medical community and in the herbal community, that once Melissa was back on the scene, it was like, hey, do you remember me from Simplers? Yeah, I want to carry your whole line, kind of. And it was just really, it just kind of rolled and bulldozed.
So let's say you're listening to this podcast and you've never used an essential oil and you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend for the layperson if they're curious about this and they want to get introduced to Veriditas? Do they go into the store?
Yeah.
And what stores are you in locally? Are you in a handful?
Okay, so if you want to find out where we are, you can go on our website at Veriditas, by the way, is like the hardest name to say, pronounce, spell. It's Hildegard von Bingen, this Christian mystic from the 13th century. She talked about this thing called Veriditas, and it was the moment that God heals you through the plant, or the moment that the greening through, like you have this greening power come in through you. And this, when I was a hippie 16, 17-year-old, I was like,
social media.
I was like, Veriditas, that's the name of my company. And then I bought the name Simplers from James Green, because a simpler was one who would be able to simple a plant, which means that you can go out and, if dandelion's growing in your front yard, or chicory, 100 different ways to use it. So, anyway, names are important.
Veriditas, Veriditas.
Good. V as in Victor, ER, D as in dog, ITAS, oils.com. Veriditasoils.com is the domain name that I usually use. If you go to where to buy, there's, I think, about 100 places that we sell to in Minnesota. So we don't sell to any Whole Foods. So take that off the list. But we do sell to almost every co-op: Lakewind, The Wedge, all the ones in Byerly's, Colburn's for the people that are outside of, the Twin Cities, Dow Foods. I mean, I think we're in every single co-op except for the Seward. But every other co-op carries almost our whole line. And we have about 200 different SKUs, so 200 different products, and most places carry all of them. So they have the essential oils, they have the formulas, the blends. So if you have something like eczema or a yeast infection, or you want to use a herbal deodorant, or you want acne, or like you were talking about, the rose regenerative oil for anti-aging, those are the things that I would start with, the things that are pre-mixed, because they tell you, there's a whole card and on the label of how to use them, how often to use them, how that affects, what effects you should be expecting, etc.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
This is like totally
just
rude. You're how old? I know you're 40 something.
I'm 43.
Okay. And I'm sitting across from you, and I wish I had a video camera, because I'm assuming you've used rose regenerative oil for your entire adult life. You don't have any wrinkles.
Aww.
Do people tell you that? I mean, it's almost eerie.
Oh, God.
It's like you're the picture of Dorian Gray.
Oh, God. Everyone's their own worst critic.
But
I use oils I don't overuse oils at all. I mean, I am not one of those people that, I put cellulite on my cellulite every day and I put 30 treatments on. I think that's crazy. And I forgot to talk about Young Living and doTERRA, which are the two multi-level marketing companies that brought essential oils. I think in America, they really raised awareness. And neither of them are organically certified. But I do respect them for all of the education that they've done on just the fact that we can use essential oils in a different way. However, I don't subscribe to the way that they
the sales model. Yeah.
Well, no, not the sales model, but the way that they overuse essential oils, in my opinion, and especially internally around the skin, and that they're not organic. But I think Gary Young was awesome in the way that he really brought French medical aromatherapy. He partnered with this guy, Daniel Penawal, who was one of the writers of L'Aromatherapie Exactement, which is one of like the aromatherapy Bibles for doctors. And to practice aromatherapy in France, you need to be an MD. So that's kind of cool. But What were we talking about? What was the?
I don't even remember.
I know.
I just lost my train of thought,
Let me
too.
just think for a second.
We were talking about the entry point to aromatherapies if you're going to go into one of the stores. Like, would it be whatever the ailment is? Like, what do you see most people, what's the entryway? Is it the pain relief that you talked about?
We were talking about gateway drugs when we first met. And I think the pain relief, I mean, oh my God, some of the stories I could start crying telling you, the older, I volunteer at old folks' homes, and some of the women there and men that I've treated, just, yeah. So we called it pain relief. And then when I hired the new CEO, her name is Julia Craven. She made everything DSHEA compliant, which means that you can only talk about structure and function and you can't
medical
name disease.
promises, right?
Yeah. And when I told you I started this out of my home, I never thought that I was going to get big. So it's now called Just Plain Relief, kind of a spin-off of pain relief. But yeah, it's anybody who has any kind of discomfort or pain, whether it be, fibromyalgia, tense muscles,
inflammation,
sciatica, anything, I recommend trying this. I've used this for so many things. This guy that 70 years old that had a bent finger for years because he slammed his finger in the garage door, and the inflammation started to respond to the pain relief, and he was bending his finger in like 15 minutes. And so that was one of the crying moments. So yeah, pain relief. I was crying. My dog was crying. My family was crying. And we were just all like, we need to bring this to market. And then another thing is the mental clarity. We call that our gateway drug. One thing that I think is really original about me and the way that I chose to do business, like you said, I do a really grassroots business. I don't have any brokers. I don't sell to Whole Foods. I don't sell online.
And you're in Minnesota, which when I met you, I was like, how is this lady doing this right in Bloomington in her garage?
Well, I've also lived all over the world, and I have
you're a very bright person, obviously.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I just think I love Minnesota because of the people. The people that live here are not like anybody else in the States. And there's more co-ops here than there is in any other state. And I really believe in the co-op model. And and I'm a part of the co-op. So I always chose to only buy from co-ops and independents and sell to co-ops and independents. So that's one of our big grassroots models. But another thing that's really original about Veritas is that I wanted to get people into the stores that were trained by me. So when you asked, were they aromatherapy trained? Were they whatever? No, they were just friends, people from coffee shops, whoever, that I would train on how to talk about our products to customers. So it was easy because I was training them from how I wanted to say and what I wanted to say and not say.
So if you're going to train me to talk to a layperson about your product mental clarity, what are you going to tell me as a layperson? So
when you and I first got together, I said, would you like to try this? I had you smell it to make sure that you didn't like puke because you thought it was too gross. Because some people are sensitive and you don't want to just leave. They shouldn't be doing essential oils.
And I hate patchouli, so I didn't want to smell like a weird hippie. Sorry, but I didn't.
Yep, a lot of people hate certain smells and just keep away from them. I mean, it's just all common sense. So I put 3 to 5 drops in your hand. We rubbed them together. We smelled them, cup to our face. And then we vigorously rubbed the essential oils all over our back and shoulders. And so it stimulates the mind, relieves fatigue, refreshes and energizes, improves memories, treats headaches, soothes tense muscles, good for hot flashes, relieves nausea, stress and anxiety, opens the lung for deeper breathing, for yoga, post workout. I've put it on my legs for better running. I mean,
I would have that at my desk, and I would just do it. Yeah, I was going to tell you too. I was in a yoga center in Minneapolis the other day, and they did a class.
Favorites.
And they used your essential citrus oil at the end of class. I think was the oil that they used. And I smelled it, and then I was looking for your stuff because I have it at home. And I was like, that's got to be Melissa's from Veritas.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in today.
Absolutely.
It was super fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased that you helped me with the essential oils in my life. Since we met, I have traveled to St. Bart's, which is a French-speaking country. Yeah. And I've really kind of expanded my mind about what are essential oils and how to treat them. And I met a woman when I was there who was trying to have me deal with geranium oil, and she knew I'd had cancer, and she sold me some oil and I bought it because she was so nice. But then I came home and I used yours instead. So I don't know if that was right or wrong, but I really appreciate you being on the show. When you think about other entrepreneurs, you're this is your second company that you've sold now. Do you have a third one in you? Because entrepreneurs tend to be serial, or so what's next for you? I know you're still working in your company, but
I think I'll work with Veritas for the rest of my life. I think that it's just starting and it's super exciting to me. I really, really hope we sell to Cancer Treatment Centers of America and the Mayo Clinic and Pasteur University. And I really would like to get that French medical model. I hope that the FDA does some kind of a regulation so that we have the difference between just the smelly stuff and then the stuff that you need to be careful of and know how to use.
In a medical way, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I would love to be a part of that piece of the development of essential oils in this country.
I hope you are too.
I also am just such an organic advocate, and I think I would probably get into that in food and things like that. But yeah, teaching is kind of my forte. I'll probably always teach and talk about essential oils.
Because you have a lot to say and you're really good at explaining it.
Thanks.
Very smart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you very much.